Year 2008.
Ruggedly beautiful and in an awe-inspiring situation. If you'd like to see Portland Cross Castle restored and fully accessible to ordinary people, then this.
This week on Time Trumpet, 2008, the year Britain descended into a morass of drunk, bingy drinking that turned dangerous.
Everyone that presented television shows was drunk. Hugh Edwards was mostly off his face.
How are we doing for tapes?
Right, now what we're going to do, make the sauce. Very quick, very easy process. Brandy, which we give just a little bit of flames. You know, me and flames, we like that. And that's just burning off the alcohol.
Britain in 2031, an overcrowded land, where even football is overcrowded. But at least we're sober, not like in 2008.
But if you're looking for a sports coupe, Aston.
Rubbish. I'm not.
Oh,
no.
There'd be whole news bulletins where you couldn't make out anything apart from just sort of giggling and slurring.
And watching that with me is our political editor, Andrew Marr. Andrew is still digesting details of tonight's reshuffle.
I can't remember if it was Jon Snow and Krishnan Gurumurthy. One of these double acts had a thing they did where they were drunk, where one of them would go, "It's 9 o'clock, here are the news headlines," and the other one would go, "It's 9 o'clock, here are the news," and all that sort of thing. And there was a lot of that on the news in those days. One person would say, "There's been a shooting," and "Oh, a shooting!"
We were never pissed on screen, were we? No. Never, we wouldn't touch a drop, like. But that Cilla Black, she came on and she was all over the place. She was pulling at her hair, tugging it, and going, "It's so weak, it's so weak." It wasn't.
And Bill Turnbull and Anna Ford, they got pissed with, what's his name, George
Alagaya.
George Alagaya, just before he did the 6 o'clock news, and they shaved off his head. Right. But it didn't grow back properly, so he spent the rest of his life with this weird half haircut.
Serves him right.
At 6 o'clock, these are tonight's top stories. Binge drinking, a special report on how even 6-year-olds are ending up in casualty.
These youth workers are looking for underage drinkers.
It's Streetwise. Anybody else here?
You
look really pale. Are you OK? Come here, let me look at your eyes.
This is the outskirts of Southampton, but the increasing number of children and teenagers drinking is a national problem.
When I was a kid, you never heard of anyone drinking binge. It was not even an issue. And then suddenly there's this thing everywhere, binge drinking. I don't really know where it came from.
News studios have got more and more relaxed and decadent places anyway.
The second day,
with everyone binged off their face, professional standards plummeted.
Maintenance of the East Coast main line wasn't up to...
And lots of you, sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to tell you that lots of you talking about this on the email. Oh, gosh.
Disco dancing or disinfectant? Come on, Cathy.
And over to Jamie for something appropriately festive.
Remember Bill Oddie on Springwatch? Christ, he was awful. He puked in a Badgers set and then punched a sparrow.
Talking about 2008 on Time Trumpet this week are a veritable who's who of top cultural commentators stroke TV pundits.
When I think of life now and life how it was in whatever period of time the clip show today is going to be covering, I think there were some interesting differences between now and then. Some of them good, some of them bad. And I'm happy to elaborate on them in whichever way you feel is most appropriate.
What a year. It was 1 year that I will never forget, you know.
Which year was that? Do you watch much television now?
No, sometimes, like at a party, someone will get out a tiny television and you'll look for about 10 minutes or something, but...
it would help if you said that you watched a lot of television.
Oh, yeah, I watch TV all the time.
If you are new to home shopping bacon, think about this. It's the glamorous films over the last 20 or so years that have made us so big. Think about Deliverance, when the guy says, "Squeal, piggy, squeal," whilst he's bumming the fat rafter. I mean, it's wham, bam, thank you, ham, if you know what I mean. That's probably why you're here today.
How best to beat the smoking ban?
Which is imminent.
Which is imminent. May we present the personalised smoking unit, the PSU?
So, you're in a bar sometime in the future?
Sorry, there's no smoking here.
But I've got one of these.
My apologies. Would you like a complimentary?
So how does it work, you're probably wondering? This gets plugged into the nearest power point. The cigarettes are here. The smoke comes down here, through the filtration system, in and out, handily through this little baby, which goes to the nearest door, window or fire exit.
Folds away neatly. We're looking for £100,000 for 10%.
10%.
I will do the 100,000 for 25%.
Frankly, that's an insult. This is a work of genius.
No, for what percent? What? Excuse me.
How do you expect to get up to 6 million? Because that's a huge turnover.
Sorry, love, I'm talking to the man.
I'm John Humphreys, and we're painting a wall.
I'm Gavin Essler, and we're painting a wall.
I'm Jermaine Greer, and I'm painting a wall.
I'm Nicholas Owen, and I'm painting a wall.
I just love green. I just love green.
I'm painting a wall with my friends.
It's good to have friends. See how I'm standing to paint the wall.
Still quite a lot to do.
And so little time to do it.
One politician happy to go on painting a wall was David Cameron.
Seems to have got a bit of red in this one.
Soon Cameron won plaudits for his sure media touch.
Now, I did an awful lot of things to gain popularity. I learned to break dance. I went to the premiere of Ice Age 3 in a mammoth costume. I lived in a tree house. I danced with Natasha Kaplinsky on Comic Relief. I rapped the 5 pledges of our manifesto. I sang with McFly.
But look at the facts, you know. In 2006, an edition of Question Time will get 1.5 million viewers. If you put a bloke from EastEnders on it, it might go up to 1.7. How did you sell politics to the public? And the answer was to have a puppet of a donkey asking the person the questions in the company of puppets of animals or objects.
So, first question from Monkey is, what do we call you? Is it Dave? David? Crazy Davy?
Cameron was the first politician quite happy to go on this new show.
People call me David. I don't really mind, and I sometimes often don't notice, so...
Right. Crazy David Cameron's in the hut.
Whatever you like.
We used to go on holiday in Spain every year, and you'd see the donkey on the beach, and you'd see the newsstand next to the donkey, and all the kids were looking at the donkey. There were no kids looking at the newsstand. So when the BBC came to me and said, how about doing Question Time, I thought, yeah, let's have the donkey.
So, Davy, can you tell us everything about politics in 10 seconds?
There are those who come into politics to tell people what to do. That's Tony Blair. And there are those who come into politics to set people free. That is David...
The word for it was edutainment. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes.
It both educates and it entertains, and that word's a compound word of those two things. And people say to me, oh, you're always talking about edutainment. What do you mean? What I mean is...
Infiltration.
Or infotation is another way of saying edutainment.
Let's face it, this is exactly the right time to roll one up, isn't it?
Look, I did lots of things before I came into politics that I shouldn't have done.
Yeah, right.
David Dimbledonkey trivialised politics. Well, they said the same thing about politics. Oh, you know, Scheitgeist on Channel 4.
But let me just take on the other 2 points.
No, Monkey's tired.
He is only 3 foot tall, but packed into that is a lot of nous.
Oh, Monkey wants to know which is your favourite spin-off band from Busted. Is it Fight Star or Son of Dork?
Well,
quick as you like.
It's hard to remember that there was a time when politicians were not interviewed by anthropomorphic puppets. And there was a time when a politician could expect to be asked difficult questions by a human, not by some kind of sop.
Oh, thanks for coming in. Grab yourself a coconut on the way out. Bye, Davy.
But the biggest political story of 2008 was that two men were acting as parallel prime ministers, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. Occasionally they would give simultaneous speeches.
Power, wealth and opportunity are in the hands of the many, not the few. And not just the few.
It was like the two of them were doing the same job, wasn't it? It's like there was two peas in a pod, like Noah's Ark or something. Like Tweedle Brown and Tweedle Blair. Sorry.
You all right?
I am all right. I was thinking about what I just said.
Gordon Brown's one of the best chancellors this country's ever had. But as Prime Minister, you see, my judge of a Prime Minister is always, would I be happy to have my wife leave me for him? Tony, no problem. Anytime, he can have her. But Gordon, I mean, would you want to hire a private detective and have him show you pictures of that leaving a motel with your wife? Not in a million years.
But on April the 9th, Tony Blair, realising that really there was nothing else left for him to do, announced his resignation.
Well, the night before, Sherry rang me up and said, come over, Alistair, I think he's lost it. He's really going to do something stupid like, in her words, we on the policeman, which was always one of Tony's jokes.
How did he look when you went into the camera?
He looked desperate, crestfallen. And there he is, sitting in the toweling dressing gown that he thought brought him closer to Thatcher, which wasn't the case anyway, Trust House 40 written on it. And he kind of whimpers and says to me, oh, do they still love me? Do they still love me? I said, no, Tony, they think you're an arsehole. Why do you think the fireworks are going off? And he says, oh, but I still love them. And then he suddenly changes and says, well, if it's fireworks they want, I'll give them fireworks. So he reaches for the amaretto bottle, poured the amaretto all over himself. Unfortunately, neither of us had any matches, so there weren't going to be any fireworks. Not that it would have made any difference, because the amaretto bottle was full of Ribena. He wasn't even drunk. That's when I finished with him. I haven't spoken to him since. I never liked the guy. Never liked him at all.
Actually, if you can't get out and about, then here is a really good idea. If you fancy a pork chop, and you may be sitting there at the moment almost slavering over the thought of it now, a pork chop freshly cooked. Look, you haven't got it, but I can help you and deliver this direct to your door, usually within 5 days. Cook a whole pack of bacon all together. Great substitute for a gammon steak or a pork chop, I'm sure you'll agree.
Do you remember some of the documentaries at the time?
Oh, yes. The man who was just a foot. Right. What's your bit of, telly? Let's have a look. You like the bill, don't you? Thought I might, do a bit of shopping later on, if you fancy slipping on your roller skate and getting a bit of air. Yeah?
How do people react to him? Do they tease him?
People do joke that he must be really good at football. And of course he's not, because he's totally immobile. Because he is a foot doesn't of course mean he's good at anything that's particular to a foot, because what people don't grasp is he is a foot. That's him. He can't kick his foot. That's just you, isn't it? Darling, that's just you.
Meanwhile, Britain's descent into binge spread to all aspects of life. These are two bishops. In hospitals, drunk surgeons had a laugh sewing eggs and ping-pong balls into the stomachs of patients.
Too far. Try an egg, yeah.
Just imagine if he's hugging the missus of the eggs. Let's sew him up.
Remember the pukey-okey bars? Well, I like them. You know, you puke and sing at the same time.
What word can indicate...
Meanwhile, at university, tired students simply couldn't be bothered to learn anything.
Entertainment game combining memory and skill tests, poor quality cheese, and the play within a play in Shakespeare's Hamlet.
I can't remember the question. I think you should just...
Venezuela? I think it's Venezuela.
You say Venezuela for every answer.
I'm convinced it's Venezuela.
Give us a sec.
Just make something up. Venezuela? Have I said Venezuela?
Can I sit in the middle?
Come on then, it's Venezuela. He likes Venezuela. He's been to Venezuela.
No, it's not fucking Venezuela.
Say anything, make something up. Say, yeah, maybe it's right.
Say Fugnu. That's just...
Come on.
Ridiculous. What about Fugnu?
No, it's Venezuela. 10 points for this.
Bollocks.
And Noel Edmonds. He did Deal or No Deal off his face. He was tearing open the boxes and says, I don't care if you win, chicken feed to me. And then he clouted someone over the head with a phone.
Things have now got so bad that as a last resort the government have asked Ant and Dec to hold an inquiry into Binge Britain and come up with recommendations.
Report comes out next week? Aye, next week, yes, I'm looking forward to it. It's over 1,000 pages long, man, pretty thick. Thank God for computers, eh? Imagine having to type that lot up, it'd take forever, wouldn't it?
Does Ant understand all this? Do you get all this?
No,
you don't really do. Man, let's just say neither of us really understand, the ins and outs of it. What we understand is people, old people, young people, and drink.
Well, we like a good time, but we're not hospital cases.
No, just a glass of sherry before a meal or something like that, eh?
Oh, yes.
Right.
At the presentation of their report, Ant and Dec couldn't resist falling back into their old ways.
What are you doing?
I was a bit anxious, so I thought I'd have a quick sniff to settle me nerves.
And no, you cannot drink alcohol at a press conference for Booze Britain.
The Ant and Dec report has come up with the following recommendations.
Publicans should be legally obliged to undertake an ID check, both at the door and at the bar, for all customers, thereby eliminating any possibility of underage drinking.
Publican? What do they know about running bars? They can only eat fish.
No, and you're thinking of Pelican.
Because they played the ass so much, no one has taken the report seriously, and Britain has descended into hell.
4 yob kids over there, and I'm going now to approach them, dressed as one of them. If I'm spotted, or if they realise that I'm not, in fact, a yob kid, I could be in serious trouble. Trying as much as possible to move like one of them, I approach a small gang and cautiously begin to blend in. Sup, my niggas? Yeah. Just in town to buy a little bit of drugs and ting, Oh my God, I can't believe it. I've never been this far away from home.
What are you talking about?
Is I the only gay in the village? Just talking about, is we gonna do some stabbing, rewind, bothered. I'm a lady.
Nah, mate, we're just playing a bit of footy.
Oh, yeah, Blake. Oh, look, adult. Which one of you Negroes is gonna, come and happy slap that maidly with me, Blake, yeah?
You go and we'll just watch, yeah?
We could, take a lot of drugs and do the happy slapping on the drugs with that, on the man over there and stuff, and it could be, Black and Wicked and Blake. That is so Blake, that is Black. That is Fat Black. That is William Peter Blatty, and that is
Look, mate,
so...
why don't you just fuck off?
Hey, OK, listen. Don't come closer, stay there, because I'm being filmed. I'm doing a programme for the BBC, and this is all being filmed, so if you come any closer, it'll be on film.
Where are the cameras then?
There's a camera. I'm wearing a hidden camera. There's a camera in that car there. You can see the light, so if you... Just stay there. Don't move, and put that skateboard down.
Furthermore, all alcohol should not be advertised as an aspirational ideal.
But how do they cure headaches?
What? No, aspirational, not aspirin. We will now take questions from the floor.
Look at the little Ellie. Oh. Look at the pussycat.
We were looking for £225,000. Peter?
I know what you're thinking.
Come on, Pete. What's going through your head?
The thought of having to look at my shit when I go to the toilet afterwards is sort of borderline for me, especially if you're going, as I would call it when I was a little kid, and I haven't changed now, I call it big toilet. So when you go to the big toilet, you can't wait to close that top seat down.
There you go.
Of all the on-screen relationships in 2008, the one that was to lead to most tragedy was the one between Natasha Kaplinsky and Dermot Monaghan.
I don't think he ever really came to terms with my success on Strictly Come Dancing. He spent ages trying to set up a show with Dermot O'Leary called Dermot and Dermot. But it was just a name. Still, he pushed it around for ages in various forms. Dermot meets Dermot, Dermot squared, It Takes Two Dermots, Big Dermot, Little Dermot, Dermot Crabs.
Well, helping raise awareness is the singer Tom Yorke from the rock band Radiohead.
I'm a massive Radiohead fan, and I was so excited that Tom Yorke was on. But Dermot was in a very bad mood because he wanted to do a joke, something about climate change being a hot issue. He'd written it himself, and it went down very badly.
That climate change is quite literally one of the hot issues of the moment, as we're all urged to recycle.
When the joke didn't work, something broke in Dermot. He gave up. And in fact, so when I was talking to Tom, I could hear this muttering in the background. I heard him say, "You might at least have shaved," and it was just really embarrassing. And then he also said, "What on earth's the matter with your eye?" I heard him say wanker, and I had to actually cough over it.
Tom, I mean, the problem is...
When Dermot Murnaghan hung himself live on breakfast television, it was a calculated critique of the way the media was going. He was caught up in this stupid world of edutainment or infocation, whatever you call it, and he wanted to make some kind of protest against that. And as soon as he did that, as soon as he made that gesture...
Documedy.
Huh?
Documedy.
Documedy, yeah. As soon as he made that gesture of hanging himself on TV, he became the people's news presenter of choice.
A bit of a change for you, Tom, from Radiohead to Friends of the Earth, Saving the World.
Saving the world?
I sensed something happening beside me.
You know, when the guy is standing on the chair putting the thing around his neck, it's kind of obvious, isn't it?
I went on, I turned to auto cue, and I finished my piece, and I threw to him, and he was hanging.
Yeah, well, we've got a day, haven't we? Right, yeah. We've finished about 6 o'clock this evening.
What made you decide to get involved?
I mean, she was being upstaged, really, which she hated. I mean, a lot of the time, you know, Dermot would make little rabbit signs or kind of go, ooh, and do things like that, but this was a real ramp up.
His eyes were pleading for me to help him. So I swung off his legs just to finish off the job. They did ask me to dance at his funeral. I didn't think it was appropriate. And of course, you could have written the tabloid headlines yourself, couldn't you? Kaplinsky dances on Murnaghan's grave.
But the biggest event of the year was the day Blair resigned as Prime Minister and tried to hand over to someone else who wasn't Gordon Brown, even though he'd promised it would be Gordon Brown.
He tipped off to me that he wanted me to take over, but of course that was something private between us. The rest of the cabinet thought it was Brown that was going to take over.
Blair called a quick cabinet meeting without Gordon Brown and told them all it wasn't going to be Gordon Brown.
Oh, the day itself was murder. I mean, he set off to the palace and we all thought, OK, that's it. Unfortunately, he'd promised large numbers of people that they'd be the next Prime Minister.
Publicly, Miliband said this rumour was bollocks.
I had this car waiting for me to take me to the palace, and so I shot off to the palace.
Brown shot off after him, as did Cameron, who'd also been promised, while Ming Campbell waited for a taxi.
I think all in all, there was more than 17 people he was promising to hand over to.
I wasn't aware of this. I mean, you're telling me this now, but I mean, that's really knocked me for six, to be honest.
So you can see the Mall was getting pretty congested.
The fly in my ointment was Brown, and I had to get to that palace before him.
A lot of nonsense is talked about the day of the handover.
There was a bomb scare that had come in by telephone, and it was in the part of London where my car was travelling through, so we couldn't get out, we couldn't move.
While on the way to the palace, Blair pulled one more massive rabbit out of his hat.
He rings up the press and announces that we're going to join the euro, thinking that Gordon would think, hell, I got to get back to the Treasury sorted out because there'll be a stock exchange meltdown. Gordon, fuck economics, he says, keep going for the palace.
I mean, it was never really established where this bomb threat had come from, but I've got a pretty good idea.
Not true. Not true. I phoned in a suspect package. It may have been a bomb. It may have been a discarded bag of chips.
Aware of Miliband's delay, Blair dragged his conversation with the Queen out for some time.
Tony's audience with the Queen went on for 3.5 hours, but that's not unusual. he makes her laugh.
When offered tea, he asked if he could have some lapsang souchong, which he knew they would have to send out for.
The Queen found it quite difficult to let Tony go. He was her first real Prime Minister, and it was quite difficult for her to imagine someone else doing the job.
While the meeting between Queen and Prime Minister continued, Brown was left in a holding pattern.
Brown's just going round and round in circles, and, you know, they had to refuel.
I mean, the whole country watched this, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, people took the day off work. Everyone's going, I can't come out, I'm watching Brown go round Buckingham Palace.
It was a bit like the OJ car chase, wasn't it?
It was like the OJ car chase, but with no chase element, and with one car.
7 hours and 6 years later than he'd been promised, Brown was at last Prime Minister.
For months, all the staff would address Gordon Brown as Prime Minister rather than, and they would always do, and some of them, I mean, I just did that quite, small scale. Some of them would do enormous sort of inverted commas, and not just Prime Minister, but they would say things like, there's an important call, really quite elaborately, and I think it did have an effect on Brown.
One of the things that happens when you are Prime Minister is that you get your portrait painted and hung on the wall in number 10. Sitting was very pleasant and the painter was very friendly, but when it came to the unveiling, it was a portrait of Tony Hancock. I thought there was some resemblance, I suppose, but after a while it did begin to rankle, because I walked day after day up and down the stairs every day and could see a picture of Tony Hancock when it should have been a picture of me.
And look at what you've got, the line of fat there, that's what does it for me. It's juicy and you can taste it already. But you leave the grill on a little bit too long and what have you got? You've got the crispy fella. Sunday morning wouldn't be the same without the little crispy fella. Now, you may have just heard the alarm there. The alarm's gone off. Let me pop that down. That's good stuff. Let me pop that down. The alarm has gone off for our 1 minute smash and grab bacon raid. This is your big chance to win. Details of the phone number coming up at the bottom of the screen. You can call now, but you'll need a question first of all. The prize is a whole pig's worth of bacon. Not a word of a lie. This could be yours. This is the moment you've been waiting for. And here's the big question then. What is a thinly sliced pork that could be grilled or fried and is usually served with eggs? Go. Got about 40 seconds then. The phone number's at the bottom of the screen. Call it now. I'm waiting for a caller on this line. I'll give you a clue, just in case you're struggling with this one. It's a bit difficult. You may have had it on a sandwich with ketchup. No, there's no call yet. I'll give you another one. Think of the first 2 letters of the alphabet, reversed.
Next week on Time Trumpet, we catch up with an increasingly mad Tom Cruise.
I've read every book that's ever been written. Test me.
The crackdown on security.
There'd be strip searches at things like the cinema and the ballet, and so people got used to just walking around with nothing on because they knew that it was the only way you could tell someone was definitely not a terrorist.
We look at sport.
He clearly wasn't expecting to come on at this stage, was he?
Plus a look back at some of the television from the period.
You come to the studio today because you think that your window is the cleanest in the world.
Oh, definitely.